हरि ओम। श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि प्रतिभान्ति स्थितानि च यत्रैव उपशमं तस्मै सत्यात्मने नमः। ज्ञाता ज्ञानं तथा ज्ञेयं द्रष्टा दर्शनदेशभु कर्ता हेतुः क्रिया यस्मात् तस्मै ज्ञप्त्यात्मने नमः। स्फुरन्ति सीकरा यस्मात् आनन्दसाम्बरे वनौ सर्वेषां जीवनं तस्मै ब्रह्मानन्दात्मने नमः। ब्रह्मानन्दात्मने नमः। ओम। वेदोदधिं समुन्मथ्य ज्ञानरत्नं समुद्रितं येन तस्मै वसिष्ठाय गुरुणां गुरवे नमः। वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। सद्गुरु भगवान की जय। सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। शब्द ब्रह्म की जय। सरस्वती महारानी की जय। योग वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। हरि ओम। योग वशिष्ठ निर्वाण प्रकरण उत्तरार्ध 125वां सर्ग। हम देख रहे हैं माया का स्वरूप। कहानी विपश्चित का अंदर राम जी पूछे थे माया का क्या स्वरूप। वशिष्ठ जी सब उदाहरण के साथ समझा रहे हैं कि माया का क्या स्वरूप। We are discussing on the nature of the absolute power, the cosmic power, which is otherwise also known as cosmic nature. Nature's nature. What is the nature of the nature? How it looks like, how it acts, what is its form, how does it react, all these. The illusive power, which is the cause for this creation. That is what we are discussing. तो न तो उनका यहाँ कर्म से कोई प्रयोजन है और न अकर्म से कोई प्रयोजन है। जो वस्तु प्राणियों के कर्मवश जैसे संपन्न हो गई वह वैसे ही रहे, अन्य से क्या प्रयोजन है। देखिए ना, ईश्वर का भी प्राणियों के कर्मानुसार ही व्यवहार है, अपने लिए नहीं। भगवान श्री शंकर जी अनुग्रहित कामदेव से हरिणाक्षी देवी को अपने अर्धांग में ऐसे ही धारण करते हैं जैसे क्षीर सागर अपने अंदर गुप्त चंद्रमा की कला को धारण करता है। कामदेव का निग्रह होने से उपद्रव विहीन समाधि में प्रवृत्ति होने के कारण अपने शरीर में वैसे ही आनंदाश्रु धारण करते हैं जैसे समुद्र अपने अंदर चंद्रकला को धारण करता है। इसके पहले हम क्या देखे थे? हम विचार कर रहे हैं प्रकृति का स्वरूप के ऊपर। तो वो एक उदाहरण दिया, जो प्रकृति कुछ नहीं करती है। हाँ, सब कुछ करता हुआ कुछ नहीं करता कैसे भाई? हाँ, हाँ?
माया तो है नहीं, फिर कैसे करेगी?
हाँ, नहीं होता हुआ अभी सब कुछ कर रहा था, अब कह रहे हैं कुछ नहीं करती। कैसे कुछ नहीं करती? क्योंकि जो कुछ होता है जीव का कर्म और कर्म फल, ये चक्र चलता रहता है। इसीलिए प्रकृति कुछ नहीं करती करके वो कह रहे हैं। पहले हम जानते थे गीता से और दूसरे शास्त्रों से यही कहा गया कि प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणे ही कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढ़ात्मा कर्ता हमिति मन्यते। तो कर्ता जो है, कर्ता तो कुछ नहीं करता, कर्ता जो करता है वो सचमुच कुछ नहीं करता है, प्रकृति सब कुछ करती है। ये हमारा पहला थ्योरी है। कैसे करती प्रकृति? समता में विषमता पैदा करने से। समता किसको कहता है? 3 गुण, 5 भूत और सब बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं। कार्य कर्म, कार्य कारण त्रिपुटी, ये जब स्थिर हो जाएगा कोई कर्म नहीं होता है। 3 गुणों का स्थिरता में कुछ नहीं होता है। कर्म अस्थिरता पैदा करके कर्म को अंजाम देता है प्रकृति। ठीक है, कार्य कारण भी ऐसे ही, कारण को कार्य बना लेती है और कार्य को फिर कारण बना लेती है। ये चक्र चलते रहते हैं। अच्छा, और त्रिपुटी कभी 3 दिख जाता है, कभी 1 बन जाता है। इसी प्रकार प्रकृति, तो हम देखे थे कि प्रकृति जिसको करती है ठीक उसको उल्टा कर देती हुई, विषमता पैदा करने के बाद फिर समता ले आती है उसमें। यही तो हम बार बार विचार करें, समता में विषमता और विषमता में समता प्रकृति का नियम है। प्रकृति यही करती। तो अभी समता पैदा किया तो फिर विषमता लाएंगे तभी तो कर्म होगा, और विषमता में फिर समता लाएंगे तभी तो वह आगे बढ़ेगा। बाधा डालना है। ये संध्या और 2 के बीच में जो अंतराल उसी के लिए उसके ऊपर हम कल विचार कर रहे थे। और शंकर भगवान का क्रियाकलाप के ऊपर भी विचार कर रहे थे। शंकर भगवान क्या किए कि कामदेव को सृष्टि के संसार का निर्माण के लिए, कामना नहीं है तो संसार नहीं बन पाएगा। और वो कामदेव अपना शक्ति से वो सारा संसार को अनेकता में बढ़ाता रहता है। और वही शंकर भगवान फिर वो जो शक्ति उसकी है कामदेव का, वो शक्ति का नाम क्या? हिरण्याक्षी। हिरण्याक्षी, हिरणी जैसे उसका आँख है, सुंदर, अति सुंदर वो शक्ति है कामदेव का। उसको भगवान अपने अपने अर्धांग बन के अपने शरीर में लीन कर दिए। और शांति से कामदेव का कोई काम इधर नहीं चलेगा, शांति से आनंद से बैठे हैं समाधि में, उनको लेना देना नहीं कुछ। पहले तो शुरू किए और फिर उसको चुप कर दिए। ये तो प्रकृति करती है, विषमता पैदा करके फिर समता ले आती है, फिर समता को फिर विषम कर लेती है, फिर समता में ले आती है। तो वो कहना है कि कर्म को पहले, फिर अभी कह रहा है कि प्रकृति कुछ नहीं करती। प्रकृति तो पहले कहा प्रकृति सब कुछ करती है। अहंकार विमूढ़ा आत्मा कहता है मैं करता हूँ, अब मूर्ख है जो कहता है मैं कर रहा हूँ। इसलिए प्रकृति सब कुछ करती है, कोई कुछ नहीं करता है ना? यही हमको मालूम हुआ। फिर अभी कह रहा है प्रकृति कुछ नहीं करती। कैसे कुछ नहीं करती? इसको अच्छी तरह समझो। कुछ नहीं करती कैसे? पहला जैसे मान लो वो साइकिल सब एक लाइन में स्टैंड में खड़े हैं। कोई नटखटी बच्चा गया, ये जो अपना बालकृष्ण गया और उसको पहला साइकिल को एक धक्का मारा तो क्या होगा? क्या होगा? सारे साइकिल गिरेंगे, एक दूसरे को, दूसरा तीसरा को, तीसरा चौथा को, सब धक्का मार करके सारे साइकिल गिर जाएंगे। उसको पूछा गया तो इतने सारा साइकिल को कैसा धक्का मारा, क्यों मारा? ना नहीं मैं किसी को धक्का नहीं मारा, मैं तो पहला साइकिल को थोड़ा देख रहा था। ये बात है। और इससे हमको क्या समझ में आया कि एक को एक पहले एक मोमेंटम दे दिया तो वो चलते रहेगा। वो हमारे पेंडुलम का थ्योरी, if you give a push to pendulum in vacuum where there is no obstacle for it, then the pendulum will go on oscillating for eternity if it is not obstructed by other forces. तो क्या तुम समझे? अगर बीच में कोई पूछा ये पेंडुलम को कौन झूला रहा है, तो क्या कहोगे? नहीं मैं कुछ नहीं किया। क्यों? मैं पहले एक बार एक धक्का मारा था, अभी थोड़ी, वो तो अपने आप चल रहा है, अपने आप चल रहा है। तो प्रकृति पहले कर्म को सृष्टि किया। कर्म मतलब विषमता। एक बार विषमता सृष्टि कर दिया, कर्म कर दिया, कर्म का कर्म फल मिलेगा, कर्म फल से दूसरे कर्म फिर करने के लिए मिलेगा, फिर दूसरे कर्म फल से दूसरा कर्म बनेगा। तो ये चक्र में चलते रहेगा। इसी को कहते हैं संसार चक्र। एक बार कुछ शुरू कर दो, वो चलते रहेगा अनंत काल तक। इसलिए प्रकृति कुछ नहीं करती, कुछ नहीं करती। इस दृष्टि से प्रकृति से कुछ काम नहीं होता है। प्रकृति एक बार चेष्टा दे करके फिर छोड़ दिया। बिजली चली गई तो क्या करोगे? जनरेटर चलाएंगे। जनरेटर के बैठ करके वो घुमाते रहते हो क्या? जैसे पहले जमाने में। हाँ,
पर उसका संबंध तो रहेगा ना प्रकृति का कर्म से।
संबंध रहेगा। संबंध तो सबके साथ है, रहने दो। परंतु डायरेक्टली वो तो कुछ नहीं करता है, करती नहीं। पहले ज़माने में हम हैंडल अंदर डाल के गाड़ियों को स्टार्ट करते थे। वो मार मार के खूब मारेगा और फिर गुर्र हो जाएगा तो फिर छोड़ देगा, चल पड़ा। तो ऐसे ही हमेशा तो मारते नहीं रहेगा, उसको घुमाते नहीं रहेगा। तो पहला जो चलाया और उसके बाद वो कुछ नहीं किया। तो इसी प्रकार वो सबका कारण होता हुआ भी कारण नहीं है। अब ये पॉइंट को अच्छी तरह समझो। कर्म से शुरू किया संसार को, और कर्म का जैसे नेचर होगा उसके अनुसार उसका कर्मफल, फिर कर्मफल से फिर दूसरा कर्म, दूसरे कर्म से फिर दूसरा कर्मफल, जैसे कॉज एंड इफेक्ट, ये चलते रहेगा, साइकिल चलते रहेगा। और प्रकृति बैठ कर मजा लेती है। चलते रहो, ये बात है। समझे में आया? कुछ करना जरूरत नहीं प्रकृति को, वो सब सेट कर रखा है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक। एक बार दबा दिया बटन तो चलते रहेगा वो। इसी को वह कल हम विचार कर रहे थे, कर्मफल चलते रहेगा, कॉज एंड इफेक्ट ये चलते रहेगा। और प्रकृति करती हुई नहीं करती, नहीं करती हुई करती, ये है प्रकृति का रूप।
First question means ignorance.
इग्नोरेंस नहीं, इम्बैलेंस। प्रकृति को, प्रकृति तीन गुणों को इम्बैलेंस कर देगी। या कॉज एंड इफेक्ट, कुछ एक पुश कर दो, वो कॉज बन गया, एक वो फिर इफेक्ट आएगा, इफेक्ट फिर कॉज बनेगा, तब चलते रहेगा। कर्म फल चलते रहेगा। इसी प्रकार एक बार शुरू कर दिया, अनंत काल तक चलते रहेगा वो अपने आप में। अभी समझ में आ गया प्रकृति का स्वरूप क्या? करता हुआ नहीं करता, नहीं करता हुआ करता। यही तो समझ में नहीं आता है, यहीं पर हमारे कंफ्यूजन है। हो गया? यस।
Swami, could you translate some of that into English for us?
Yes, have patience. You are sitting before me. If you are hidden behind the curtain, then I may forget you. We are discussing on the nature of the absolute nature. Absolute nature means absolute power, energy, the cosmic energy. What is the nature of the cosmic energy? How does it play? How does it act? This is so complicated. Wherever we go, whatever we discuss or analyze or we try to find out some conclusion, there is no conclusion. Everything is topsy-turvy. Everything is confusing. How? The moment you say yes, the no is waiting behind it. Because the whole universe is made up of pairs of opposites. Pairs of opposites. Wherever you see this is called relativity, the world is standing upon the law of relativity. Relativity means the opposite is true. Opposite is true. When you see something, its opposite also is there. If a coin is there, then head will be there, the other side will be tail. You cannot have the head without the tail. If you want to have a coin or you deal with a coin, you have to deal with the head and tail both. And head means opposite of tail, and tail means opposite of head. You cannot say one thing at a time decisively that this coin holds head. You cannot say. Where there is head, there is tail also. Where there is height, there is depth also. Where there is light, there is darkness also. Unless you compare both, you cannot say decisively this is like this. You see, try to understand. You say this is white, some crystal, piece of some crystal, and this is used here as a paperweight. Understood? Why it is paperweight? Because this is not paperweight. This is not paperweight, this is not. That's how this is, particularly this is called paperweight. It is different from all others. When we compare it with others, then we decide this is paperweight, this is not the spectacle, this is not the thermos, this is not the table, this is paperweight. Why? Because all others are not paperweight. Understood? That's how we can definitely, decisively, conformatively, we can say this is paperweight. And why it is white? Because this is not white, this is not white, this is not white. That's how it is white. Without comparing, we cannot decide anything. When two things are compared, then one is decided to be something other than the opposite. This is how the whole world, every moment, everything, we are sitting here at daytime. Why? How do you know it is daytime? Because it is not night. How do you know what is night and what is day? By comparison. Mind works in this way so rapidly, so speedily, we don't pay attention to see all these comparisons. See, this is fan. Why it is fan? Because the roof is not fan, it is compared with the roof. The moment we look at it, other things are around it, and mind compares it, and then decides this is this, and that decisive faculty is known as intellect, and mind is just waves of thoughts. So in this way, comparison is everywhere there. When this is thoroughly understood, when positive is there, the negative is side by side there. When you are standing on a height, say 10 feet height, that means if you fall down, you will come to 10 feet below. So the height means depth. Light means the darkness. So this is called relativity, comparison between everywhere, in all conditions. This is how we understand the world and we behave with the world. We contact with all the objects, we relate ourselves with the objects, and then taking something, giving something, transaction goes on. Taking not physically, mentally also. Qualities differ from each other. This is how. There will be opposites always. This is how the nature works, the process of the nature, the absolute power, cosmic power or cosmic energy. It acts in this way. So it is confusing always, and always the question is there, whether it is head or tail. Because both are there. One is seen where other is unseen. In everything, the opposite is unseen, positive is seen. Seen means we have contact by our senses with the object, and both way we do it. This is how whatever we are in, whatever we think, we speak, we do, or we contact with, everything is always confusing, and question is there. Everywhere there is question, whether this is like this or that. This is how we are never at the conclusion, but always there is confusion and question and problems. The world means is a problem. I means a problem. Why? I am because I am not, you are. And then starts the business of relativity. How are, see, two, when this is something, that means this is not that. And always, every moment there is physical and subtle comparison always. The moment you look at it, you have contact with one, the other is there. You cannot overlook the other. It is there. And when you compare, because it is small, that's how it is long. Because it is thin, so it is thick. Without comparison, you cannot say thick or thin. The opposite words come only when we compare. This is white. Why? Because this is black. This is not white. That's how this is white. Everywhere. So all these we discuss to know the process of the cosmic power. How does it work? So we were discussing yesterday, and today also we have to see the supreme power, energy, which is the cause for the creation, for whole world. It plays the trick. How? It makes imbalance on the balance state. You see, three qualities are there and opposites are there. Where there will be knowledge, there will be ignorance. Where there will be light, there will be darkness. In this way, the cosmic energy works. When it makes some imbalanced state, then and there it creates some balance. Balance and imbalance, it goes on. That means everything goes by a misbalanced way of every system. System means a process which is always stopped in between, or it what we can say, the process means everywhere there is a stop and then again speed, again spot, stop, again speed. This is the way of working. The process means it is not continuous. It cannot be continuous. When you write something, can you write without stopping in between? There is nothing which has no limit. That means the unlimited continuity is limited every moment. That's how we know the process. Say, when you walk, you have to stop and proceed. Stop and proceed. You cannot sleep continuously. Continuity is broken every now and then. Then only the process is continued. Process means there will be always a hindrance and then continuation, then again stoppage, then continue, then stop. This is the way of nature everywhere. See the breathe, our life principle, our vital power, we exhale and then stop and then inhale. Inhale, stop inside, again we exhale. So it goes on and our life is going on. This is a process. Writing, eating, you cannot continuously eat. Walking, thinking also, thought process. Process means the continuity is broken every now and then. That is called process. Any action we do, it has a gap in between. So this is the law of nature. That's how we can make 1 into 2. We can divide, we can multiply by bringing a interval. If this is 1, then how can you make it 2? If you can divide this part, then only it will become 2. 1 is divided into 3 parts. Divide means there will be some difference between the 2. 1, when you make it 2, there is difference. Creating difference, creating gap, and going on with the process is the nature's nature. This is called power. Power is not continuous. Continuity is understood as stability, and process is instability. Instability means there is always a difference between 2.
I have a question. So, as you said, everything in this natural nature is 2 or even more and divided. How we can unite? How we can get beyond it? How we can transcend the nature? Is it necessary, or we can just be divided?
Simple, so simple. When you understand, our purpose of understanding the nature is to go beyond nature. That is the purpose.
And how we should do that?
How? It is so simple. When you know the process of nature, how does it work, then we can go beyond. When you know all about the thief, you can catch the thief and put it into jail. Or you can handcuff and you can...
So just by knowing the nature, I'm already...
No, not only knowing. When you know, then you can react. You can decide what to do. If you don't know how to decide what to do. So, when we go on analyzing the nature's law, we find the law is imbalancing the balanced state. Imbalancing the balanced state is the law of nature. And it goes on in cycle, always balance and then imbalance, then balance, then imbalance. That is called intervals. It cannot be continuous. Continuity is known as stability. Continuity is known as stability. And disturbance is known as instability. And nature's law is to do both It asks, action means there should be a process, and process is always by pairs of opposites. First up, start it and then stop, then start, then stop. That means imbalance, then balance, have a difference and then continue, have difference, then continue. This goes on in cycle, and once it is started, then the process goes on for eternity. If there is no hindrance which can stop it. That's how I was giving the example of pendulum. Pendulum in a vacuum state, vacuum place, if you give a push, it goes on oscillating for eternity if it is not stopped by some other forces.
So that's life,
It will go on.
like life.
Yes. So, everywhere there is hindrance, one vibration is obstructed by the other vibration. Vibration means a wave. Wave means imbalanced state. Look at the superficial water. If it is completely balanced, you have no waves, you cannot see any wave. If at all we start somehow little imbalance, making it disturbed, then the waves are created. Wave means imbalanced state. Wave means if the water level goes up, then it can go up unless and until the lower portion is created, the higher portion cannot go high. See how the waves are. Waves are always imbalanced state. That means imbalance means both way. हे भगवान, उसी चीज को बार बार हम करने पर भी फिर भी समझ में नहीं आता है दिमाग को, है कि नहीं? 50 बार अरे आ जाओ, कहाँ गया वेब? पेन है किसी के पास? थैंक यू. कहाँ गया? था तो हमारे पास. You see, these are called waves. And wave means speed. It is imbalanced state. Imbalanced state. So, if the water level goes up, then there should be the lower portion, then only we can see the upper portion. Unless until you compare the higher and lower, you cannot have the wave. That means imbalance means both way. We have discussed it now. Always there will be opposite. Without opposite, there cannot be any imbalance state. So, if water goes up, that means it has to go down also. Then only the wave can be created, which is known as imbalanced state of the balanced surface of the water. So, what happens? Once it is created, it goes on unless and until it is interrupted by other forces, it has to go on. So nature gives a push once and it goes on for eternity, infinitely. But nature has other forces also. So every now and then, every wave is disturbed by the other wave. It is not in one surface. It is 360 degree. On every center will have the vibrations everywhere in 360 degree to the power 360 all round. In all round ways, the imbalanced state is created. That's how the waves, they clash against each other, and then the other diagonal force or the resultant waves are created. That's how the forms are created, and then it has relation, communication against each other, positive and negative both together. So in this way, everything becomes clumsy and confusing, and everywhere there is question how it is, what it is, when it is, where it is. This is the process of the nature. When once you create imbalanced state, then it goes on, every way it goes on, becoming clumsy and confusing and clashing against each other and making many. One becomes many. That is the process of nature. One means balanced state, the center. And when the center is disturbed, then all round way it goes on creating disturbances.
Is there a purpose to make it harmonized or make it...
Process, the nature itself has to harmonize, that is other way, or else there cannot be any stoppage. So nature works both ways. It creates imbalance and it tries to balance it. Again imbalance, again balancing. That is how all these confusions and no clarity anywhere. Understood? It cannot make balance forever. It cannot make imbalance forever. It goes on alternatively doing both together.
And you said one becomes many.
One becomes many.
Many becomes one.
One becomes two, two becomes four. In this way, the chain reaction goes on. And
But when it's many, the many becomes one again or no?
everyone will have many. Everyone becomes many. Many becomes one. See,
So it's like a cycle, it goes back.
see one page. It is one page. One page. Many lines. In every page of the book, one book, many pages. One page, many lines. One line, many words. One word, many alphabets. One letter, and it has different parts. So everywhere when you concentrate on one, it appears as many. So the confusion is always there whether it is one or many. One page means opposite, this side and that side.
It's inconceivable, right?
Huh?
Inconceivable.
Yes, incomfortable, incomplete, everything. Everything is with question.
Achintya. Yeah? Achintya.
Achintya, unthinkable. Achintya, exactly. Achintya Rupa Charita. The form also is not thinkable. It is not it is not under the reach of mind, intellect. We cannot think it. Why? Because thinking also is a process. Thinking means one thought divides into many thoughts, and it goes on continuously with breakage. One will have difference between the other. This is how everything is confusive. And this is how achintya means. It is beyond the reach of mind or intellect or reach of anything. And this is also otherwise in different, from different angle we can see. This is analytical process, how we analyze the nature by thought process. But it is not only thought process.
So there's it's like being in the world but not of the world, like the lotus. That's what we're at. That's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to be able to understand it, but not be affected by it. You see all these fluctuations and stop.
Everywhere, everything is fluctuating. Everything is changing. The change is the law of nature. It is in every respect. When you think something, it is the just opposite. And if you decide something, the opposite also is standing there. And if you go beyond, that means you have to stop everything.
So you said thought process is limited, right?
In every way it is possible to stop everything. When you are thinking, you have to stop thinking. Then you will reach that. And if you are doing something, stop doing. If you are doing some action, you stop doing action, then only you can go there, reach there. If you are thinking, you have to stop thinking. That is how yoga teaches us to stop the thinking process. You have to stop the waves of thoughts.
So there is
The,
three paths, like jnana, like knowledge, vairagya, like renunciation, like stopping, acting, and there is also the third is bhakti, like devotion.
There are so many processes.
Which one is best?
Any way is possible. It depends upon you to keep quiet. Any way you like. Stop the breath. If you stop one, other process will stop by itself because everything goes on in a cooperative way. Relative, cooperative way, the world goes on. Everybody is related with. When you speak, I hear. When I speak, you hear. So it is vice versa. Always between the two. Transaction between the two. And opposites are always there. So any way you like, if you stop thinking, then world will stop. You are beyond it. If you stop breathing, then also. If you stop talking, that also will do. If you stop doing something, means moving your body and senses. If you don't move, keep quiet, that also will stop all other process. If one is stopped, then everything will stop. If you stop moving one wheel of the car, four-wheel car, then can car move? If you stop the engine, can car move?
Car stops.
If you stop the free wheel or your steering, can it move? If you stop the revolving axis, can it go? If you stop one, other parts, other actions will stop. So somehow or other, you have to bring a halt anywhere, any way, any moment, by any condition. It is your choice. And that brings ultimate balanced state. Balanced state is beyond imbalanced state. So when you are in the imbalanced state, you cannot think of balance. Somehow or other, you have to balance it, to go beyond nature and go beyond the creation itself, and all the problems are solved, and all the achievement is achieved. Everything is done. That is to go beyond. Another example we can understand. See, when you are on the earth plane, you cannot go beyond day and night. If you are at night, then day is behind it. If you are at day, then night is sure to come. You cannot avoid. To avoid day, you have to avoid night also. So what to do? You have to go beyond your standing point. So if you can go to the neutral zone, where there is no day nor night, then only you are beyond everything. Yes.
And that's the definition of samadhi. Yes?
Exactly, samadhi or your chitta vritti nirodha, stopping the mind or stopping the breath in kumbhak. continuous kumbhak, continuous kumbhak. So there cannot be any thought waves, there cannot be any actions of the senses, nothing can work. You see, the whole system of the energy, cosmic energy, works in a cooperative way. Everyone is related with the other. That's how one becomes many, many becomes one. See the one tree. It has many branches. It cannot be one forever. The moment you look at the tree, tree is one. There are many branches. One branch, many sub-branches. Sub-branches are one sub-branch. It has got so many leaves. One leaf, it has got so many sides, up and down, and all these, the stem and the end of it, all these parts. So in this way, one becomes many, many becomes one. This is how the relativity goes. And relativity creates the nature works in this way. So if you want to have, if you want to go beyond, then you have to overlook this process. If you stop one, the other will stop. Somehow or other, yoga, different kinds of yoga, they teach the same process in different ways. Somehow or other, to stop the process somewhere or other, somehow or other, sometime or other, you have to stop it. So one stops means the other will stop. When you are walking, if your one leg is not working, can the other leg walk? It is cooperative. When one is not working, others have to stop. Because everywhere there is relationship and cooperation, cooperative system. So this is how we are discussing on the process of the nature. What is the form of nature? How does it work? What is the system? What is the law of working? All these when you know, then you can go control it or go beyond it. But everywhere it is changes, so all these changes are known as creative process. So here, when you understand it, it automatically stops. Understanding means having the conclusion. Conclusion means one. This is the method of knowledge. Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga, when you understand the result, the final oneness, the decision you know, that means you are on the decision. You are not looking at either or. And yogic process says same thing. Stop one cooperative society, then other parts will stop automatically. Yoga also says the fuel you have to, energy you have to stop. Energy is breathing system. So everything will stop. If there is no fuel in the engine, how can the car go? You have to stop something or other, somewhere or other. If you take out one wheel, it is enough. Car cannot run. if you take out one part of the engine, also engine cannot run. The car will stop. This is how we have to understand how is the nature, what is the process of nature, and what are the laws and orders. What he says, nature starts once and the cycle goes on in a cycle. It is not straight, it is always by cycle. So, once you have stopped, it pushes the button. Once you have started it, then it goes on for eternity because it is in cycle. Yes.
I have a question, but I'd like to ask him to translate it.
We want to understand, like, if we think about the human-created imbalance, like, for example, in Delhi, there is good air, fresh air, but when we come here to the Himalaya, the air, or in Delhi the air is polluted, but here the air is much fresh. So how we can, it creates inside imbalance in ourselves. So how we can let this imbalance go? That was his question.
That is what we are doing. We are trying to understand the process of the nature. When you understand clearly the process of nature, then you can overcome its problems. Understood? You have to understand the process of nature, how it makes imbalance and again brings balance. Both it does. So, we are in the nature. Always we means human being or any other being, animals, birds or other beings, they have no intellectual power. That's how they are in the law of nature. And human being is given a special power to analyze and to see the things, that is called intellect. So it implies the intellect. It creates imbalance in imbalance. You see, it disturbs the nature. It doesn't like to go with the nature because it has got another imbalancing power. So always they clash against each other. When we know it is nature, we go against nature because we have some nature of deciding. That's how we always suffer. And other animals, plants, or other beings in the nature, they don't have the power to decide things. They don't have the intellectual power. So they are bound to cooperate with nature and go with the nature. And they don't have so much problems. You have to follow the natural law, then you will have no problem as long as you are in the nature. When you have gone beyond nature, no problem at all. And where you are in the nature and go against nature, naturally there will be problems. And that is the problem of human beings. We think against each other, we act against each other, we speak against each other, and we do every action against each other. That is due to super intelligence, that is called ego. Human beings have the strong ego which plays the role of all these problems, creates the problems. And if you want to have peace and order, you have to give up your ego. You have to come to nature. Nature also creates imbalance, but it tries to balance it, they are not there. But human beings, they create imbalance and they don't like to balance it, they are not there. So it goes against the nature.
Surrender to nature, otherwise beyond nature.
Yes. So if you have cut one tree for your use, plant at least 10 trees. Then you can keep up the nature in order. We don't do it. We disturb everyone, but we don't bring solution. We create problems. We are very good in creating problems because we are super beings. We have the intellectual power. We can, so we use it. Do you get the point? If you can be one with the nature, then there is no problem. Why? Because nature imbalances everything and at the same time balances everything. That is how the waves, if it has gone high, it has to come down. That is the law of nature. But when we make it high, we don't bring it down again. This is how we go. Every step we go against the nature.
Is this where we think of God? I mean, you think of God always? Is that by thinking of God always, you can change the nature, or at least the way we perceive it?
I could not get the point. What do you ask?
If we think of God always,
God.
if we think of God always, that will, it can't change the nature, but at least we...
Let it be God or dog, it should be one. The moment you make two, the problems are there. That is how God is one. Whatever is there, whether it is God or dog, it doesn't matter. Let it be one. That is the solution for everything. That's how we say God is one and nature is many. If mind is one thought, then there is no problem. If prana, the vital energy, if it stops, keeps balance, then no problem. Whether it is God or world, we don't have any problem. Problemlessness is Godhood. Call it God or call it Khuda or call it Vishnu or Ram or emptiness or beyond everything, it doesn't matter. That absolute oneness solves all the problems. That is how we have to go beyond nature. We have to know the laws and functioning process of nature. Then only we can have peace and solution, answers, conclusion. So, we are discussing on the nature. चंद्रमा को भगवान धारण करते हैं, चंद्र कला को अपने अंदर धारण करते हैं। और जैसे जैसे क्षीर सागर के अंदर अपने अंदर गुप्त चंद्रमा की कला को धारणा करता है, कामदेव का निग्रह होने से। देखो प्रकृति क्या क्या प्रकृति को जरूरत है, वो कामदेव को पैदा किए भगवान शिव। और कामदेव को पैदा करने से कामदेव अकेला कुछ नहीं कर सकता, दो चाहिए। इसीलिए हिरण्याक्षी जो उसकी शक्ति को पैदा किए और शक्ति को पैदा करके दोनों को, शक्ति को अपने अंदर धारण करके बैलेंस लाए, तभी वो समाधि में सदा सर्वदा रहते हैं और अर्धनारीश्वर कहलाते हैं। और कोई अर्धनारीश्वर नहीं है, शिव जी अकेले अर्धनारीश्वर इसीलिए है कि दोनों को बैलेंस में रखते हैं, सदा सर्वदा समाधि में इसीलिए रहते हैं कि बैलेंस। तो वह करें कामदेव का निग्रह होने से उपद्रव विहीन समाधि में प्रवृत्ति होने के कारण अपने शरीर में वैसे आनंदाश्रु धारण करते हैं, जैसे समुद्र अपने अंदर चंद्र कला को धारणा करता है। ठीक है। उत्तम आशय वाले ये जो भगवान शंकर जी समर्थ होते हुए भी रागिता का त्याग नहीं करते हैं। काम दहन के समय उनके निरागता आदि गुण देखने में आए हैं। हम कहाँ से कहाँ चले गए, प्रकृति के ऊपर बात कर रहे थे। तो कामदेव को जब पैदा नहीं करेंगे तो संसार बढ़ेगा नहीं। और संसार को बढ़ाने के लिए कामदेव अकेला नहीं कर सकता है, इसीलिए उसके शक्ति को प्रकट किए। और शक्ति प्रकट करने से फिर उसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए उसको अपने अंदर धारण किए। तो देखो ये प्रकृति का खेल, द प्ले ऑफ नेचर। हम जो विचार कर रहे हैं हमेशा प्रकृति भी समता में समता लाता है। द नेचर्स प्रोसेस इज टू ब्रिंग इम्बैलेंस इन बैलेंस। Everywhere both will be together. That is the nature's law. If there is balance, there will be imbalance, and if there is speed, there will be stoppage. If there is one, then it has to be divided. There should be gap. So both way Prakriti works, nature works, so the world goes on. And if you try to be one-sided, then the nature is disturbed. So everything goes topsy-turvy. Shankar Bhagavan started creating and creating the desire. From desire, Kamadeva, desire cannot work unless the power is there. So the power is created. So desire goes on multiplying. Fulfilling the desire. Desire means a gap, and fulfilling the desire means filling the gap. This is the nature. And this is how the creation goes on. Creating a gap and fulfilling the gap. The question is, with a gap, fill up the gap. Answer is fill up the gap. I agree. So in this way, Lord Shankar also created the desire, and desires are fulfilled by actions. Karma, it's nature, but it should not be left free. It should be under control. So, the power holder and the power, both together can work. Power holder, the engine is there. If power is not there, engine cannot work. Generator is there. If fuel is not there, generator cannot work. But if the fuel is there and engine is not given a push, then that also useless. Everything should be in process, and the process should go on harmoniously. That's how everything should be under control. So what Lord Shiva, the ultimate truth one, what he did, he created the desires gap, Kamadev, and filled up the gap by the fulfilling the desire. That means actions, that means the power, creating this power, the power holder and the power, both are created. If they are given freedom, then there is no end to it. So both should be under control. So to control it, Lord Shiva kept the energy within him. So he is called both together, two in one. Two in one. Ardhanarishwar, two in one. Both the power and the power holder together is Lord Shiva. Half is female, other is male. Together is one, Lord Shiva.
Harihara.
Pardon?
Harihara.
Harihara, exactly. And Shiva Parvati, Ardhanarishwar. Ardhanarishwar. Yes, half is male, half is female. Together. Then only there will be balance. And creation will go on, and creation will be in balance. That is how the ultimate creative power controls the nature.
In the Vaishnava tradition is Radha Krishna.
Exactly, everywhere. The language differs, examples differ. Everywhere you have to accept the process. One who knows the process, they have to express it in some language or in some way. Same thing. Whether you call Radha Krishna or Ardhanarishwar, Shivji, it is all the same. Or Lakshmi Narayan. Narayan cannot be without Lakshmi. तो ये कह रहे हैं उत्तम आशय वाले वे भगवान शंकर जी समर्थ होते हुए भी रागिता का त्याग नहीं करते हैं। मतलब संसार में राग दिखाते हैं, परिवार बनाए हैं। शंकर जी का लड़का है, हाँ 2 लड़के हैं और पत्नी है और परिवार भी है, वाहन है, हाँ जी, नंगा रहते हुए भी पहनेंगे। दोनों चीज इसमें देखना पड़ेगा। हर अपोजिट शंकर जी के परिवार में मिलेगा। कैसे देखो, पुरुष स्त्री इकट्ठा अर्धनारीश्वर बन गए। अच्छा, और कार्तिकेय गणेश भी उल्टा सुल्टा है। और जो जितने वाहन और जितना कार्य प्रणाली सब उल्टा सुल्टा, एक दूसरे का विरुद्ध, और सब इकट्ठे एक परिवार में। एक परिवार में सारे विपरीत दशाओं को इकट्ठा रखे हैं। यही तो कहाँ तक कंट्रोल, तभी तो शिव हो सकते हैं, शांति में रह सकते हैं। When you control all the pairs of opposites together, make it a family, that is called Lord Shiva's family. Every opposites are there in Lord Shiva's family. That's how he sits always in samadhi. He can keep up balance. All the opposites you have to overcome. That is how we learn from the family of Lord Shiva. All the opposites are together there in his family. Whether Lord Shiva is there sitting on Kailas with his all opposite faculties together as a family, whether it is true or false, that is not our question. We have to see the facts and figures. So it is made like this, whether it is there or not, just as whether God is there or dog is there, it must be one. Similarly, whether Lord Shiva is there or not, we don't care. We have to see practically we are in the nature and how to have balanced state so that permanent pleasure or the blessedness we can achieve. That is the goal of every being. How to achieve it? Unless and until we know the idealism and the process we are in, we cannot have that balanced state. We need that. Whether it is called God, whether Shiva or Narayan, we don't care. We are analyzing the facts and figures and want to know what is the reality and what is the way to have that blessedness, that permanent pleasure which we are searching for every moment. Whether it is called God or anything, we don't care. Our aim is to have blessedness, have bliss. If you want to go behind the happiness, then the opposite is there, unhappiness. It is side by side there. So you have to go beyond it, that is called blessedness. When you do something, you have to undo it. So you have to go to a balanced state, neither doing nor not doing. That is what we see in many examples, and he has given the example of Lord Shiva's family and Lord Shiva's personality, how he created the imbalanced state and controlled it by balancing it. From that we can understand the nature, how to bring balance in nature. Of course, nature creates both. Nature brings both together, balance and imbalance. But permanent balance we need. And that is how we see when there is imbalance in the society, in the creation, naturally a force which is above nature has to come down to bring balance. That is we call avatar, incarnation of God. It is but natural. And you see, for the present time, there has to, we want peace. To bring peace, we have to fight. That is the only way. And when everybody has ego, then they have to clash against each other, and then there will be a balanced state. This is nature's law. Nobody can stop it. Mahabharata. Nobody can stop it. It is nature. Nature's nature. If there is power, both powers have to clash against each other, and then a balance. For some time. Again it will be imbalance. That is nature's law. You see, people say, and we do agree, the global heat, global temperature is too high, and it is going to create some unnatural disasters on the earth. Nobody can stop it. And see the long run, long process of the earth. When the earth is created, in the beginning it was so hot. In the process of long creative process, the earth has to go down, becoming cooler and cooler, cooler and cooler in long run. But in between it has to be more hot and then more less hot. So हिमयुग आएगा, फिर ये टेम्परेचर भी आएगा, सारे हिम खत्म भी होंगे. So the temperature has to go up, and again the snow age will come. And in long run, the whole earth is getting cooler and cooler. In between, hotter and cooler. This is how the nature plays its role. Nobody can stop it. We do agree it is getting more hot, and after some time it will become more cold. The ice age will come. And one day, in long run, say thousands of years, one day all the glaciers, all the snow will melt away, and it will be impossible for the living beings to be on the earth. again the life will start flourishing. This is what we have seen we are seeing in the history of earth. In the beginning, those big dinosaurs or the big animals were there, they have gone now. And slowly the human beings, other beings, they are going lesser and lesser. And one day everything will disappear. And again there will be appearance of all again start the creation. Again it will come down. But we have no patience, nor we have so much time. We are so limited beings. We cannot see everything at once. But at least God has given you the intellect. You should discuss everything impartially. You should not be partial to something. If you discuss everything impartially, not giving importance to some cult or some creed or some way of thinking or some type of social beings, be impartial and go above and look at the nature. Then you can understand how the nature plays its role. If you are partial to something, then you cannot have the clear view. You should be witness, impartial witness. Then you can enjoy. Hari Om. आज इतना, फिर कल देखेंगे शंकर जी का परिवार क्यों लाया गया बीच में, क्यों लाया गया। वहीं से तो हम प्रकृति का सब रोल देख सकते हैं। बहुत सुंदर उदाहरण। और समुद्र को लाया गया। समुद्र के अंदर देखो सारे विपरीत चीज रखा हुआ है समुद्र के अंदर। विष भी है और अमृत भी है। सारे विपरीत चीज समुद्र में है। इसीलिए समुद्र का उदाहरण दिया गया और शंकर जी का भी उदाहरण दिया गया है। न तो उनका कर्म से कोई प्रयोजन है और न अकर्म ही कोई प्रयोजन है। उनका सकल भूतों में कोई भी प्रयोजन लाभ नहीं है। इसी प्रकार हम शिव जी का परिवार को, शिव जी का व्यक्तित्व को लिए impartiality is balanced state. Then only you can become impartial witness and you can enjoy. You can control the nature. है कि नहीं? If you are partial, then there is no chance. हरि ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ओम शांति शांति शांति। सद्गुरु भगवान की जय, सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय, सदा ब्रह्म की जय, सरस्वती महारानी की जय, जोग वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। हरि ओम।